Kick-ass facts? Scary haunted places. Ooh. Pew, pew, pew. The Hoia Baciu Forest in Transylvania, I apologize to any Romanians, is often referred to as the world's most haunted forest and Romania's Bermuda Triangle. The forest was named after a shepherd and a flock of 200 sheep disappeared in the area. It is believed those who enter the forest may never return home. According to local legends, ghosts and spirits lurk among crooked trees. One tale tells of a young girl who disappeared into the forest only to reappear 5 years later, unable to remember where she had been. People brave enough to enter have reported seeing UFOs, unexplained lights, while others have received unexplainable rashes, nausea, scratches, and other physical harm. We have spoken about this next one before, but it bears repeating, and I'm going to try to pronounce it correctly. Poveglia Island, known as the most haunted island in the world, sits just off the coast of northern Italy near Venice. The island first appears in the historical record in the year 421 and was populated until the residents fled warfare in 1379. The island was used as a quarantine station for over 160,000 plague victims from 1793 until 1814. In 1922, the existing buildings were converted into an asylum for the mentally ill. Of course they were. A doctor allegedly experimented on patients with crude lobotomies. Of course he did. The doctor jumped from the bell tower in the 1930s after claiming he had been driven mad by ghosts. He later died. Decades later, residents claimed to still hear the bell, dong, although it was removed years earlier. The buildings were later used as a nursing home and long-term care facility until its closure in 1968. Now completely abandoned and illegal to visit, thrill-seeking travelers have heard screams, seen human bones wash up on shore, and the island's soil is said to comprise 50% human ash. The Castle of Good Hope in South Africa was built between 1666 and 1679 by slaves, soldiers, and sailors. It is the oldest building in South Africa. The original fortress was built to supply the ships passing the treacherous coast around the Cape on long voyages. A bell tower was constructed in 1684, and the original bell, made in Amsterdam in 1697, still hangs. But it was bricked up centuries ago. Remember that. The bell was used to announce the time and as a warning device, and it could be heard miles away. The fortress housed a church, bakery, living quarters, shops, cells, and what fortress is complete without a dungeon? The Castle of Good Hope was used as a prison during the Second Boer War between 1899 and 1902. Workers and visitors report hearing voices and footsteps in the windowless dungeon and in the building's narrow corridors. The bell in the bell tower sometimes rings on its own. Told you. A vicious black dog is also said to haunt the castle grounds. It lunges at people and then suddenly disappears. People also claim to have seen a tall, luminous man leaping off the castle walls. He, too, disappears right before he hits the ground. A man and a woman are frequently heard arguing near the guard's room, but if people check it out, only a shapeless figure can be seen. Here, an electrical bell is also heard, but there is nobody around to ring it. Even today, soldiers who guard the castle at night avoid passing through the castle's archways. They say they fear the restless souls that roam there. Lady Anne Bernard also haunts the castle to this day. She lived there in the late 18th century. As the First Lady, she was responsible for entertaining the important guests who visited the castle, and she still does that job. Even though she passed away 2 centuries ago, she appears when the castle is visited by important people. Another ghost that keeps popping up is that of Governor Pieter Gilsberg van Noot. He was a strict and militant man. He sentenced 7 men to death on April 23, 1728. He refused to grant a prisoner's last wish before his hanging. That prisoner cursed Van Noot. Later that day, he was found dead in his office of a heart attack, even though he was fine just hours before. Today, workers and visitors experience his bitter presence, and they hear him cursing and swearing inside the castle walls.